Good afternoon to everybody. Why are they still in the waiting room? There we come. So, hello. Yeah, so I've just been having some problems with Zoom, so just trying to resolve those. Good to see you all here. This is fantastic response on this EOcafe, and welcome to 2023. I hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year break, and opportunity to wish everybody now a happy New Year, happy and healthy New Year, especially healthy 2023. So it's good to be back after the break. We've got a very interesting subject today, but just first a reminder of the rules of the EOcafe. So please keep your microphones turned off unless specifically I ask you to come in and talk. Introduce yourself if I do. You're very welcome to keep your cameras on. It's always good to see people, especially when you do come in and talk. So please feel free to do that. And if you have questions, please put them into the chat before we start, so that we can understand. And I will then ask you to ask your questions. So please remember just to put questions into the chat. I'm alone. I am expecting a delivery, so I'm hoping it's not going to come during the meeting. But I have bribed the dog, so hopefully she will stay quiet and not interrupt us. She's got a special donut to keep her busy. This is the first cafe of EOcafe of 2023. We've had a record number of interests in it. We've had over 410 registered. That was about half an hour ago, so there's probably a few more even now. So strong interest in this subject. Interesting, the previous record registrants was also in a sense similar, because it was for when we first engaged with EUSPA in January 2021. So EUSPA was a new sort of institution on the in the EO landscape, and here we've got a sort of a new service in the EO landscape. So it's interesting, that provokes people want to know about what's happening and what's new. So of course we're talking today about the DAS, the Digital Access Service for Copernicus. Our goal is to learn more about it, what it will be, how it will work, what people can expect from it. And I'm very pleased that we have two of the key players from the team who will implement the DAS. Yuri Delamar, who is Public Sector Account Director at T-Systems International, and Maciej Krzyżanowski, who is CEO of Cloudferro and also a director of ERSC. And before we get into the subject, let me just ask Yuri and Maciej just to introduce themselves and the companies that they represent. Yuri.
Yeah, thank you, Geoff, and thank you for the invitation. Actually, it's a premiere because I think it's the first time that we have a public event to present the new service. So that's really nice. And wish a happy new year. Happy New Year to everyone, of course, to start this new exciting year, and hopefully without some of the difficult moments that we had from last year. We all know, yeah, the world is not just nice, but with Earth observation, I believe we can do some very important things. My role is as Geoff said, is sales in the Deutsche Telekom T-Systems to serve the public sector, as you can see from my background, where we have, of course, several interfaces to the EU institutions, the central governments in several member states and local governments to help them with their challenges and their project requirements. And in this case, of course, it's mainly about the Commission and ESA that we will talk about. So I give to Maciej then.
Hello to everybody. Again, Happy New Year. I am a CEO of Cloudferro, and we are a company delivering cloud and storage services in the realm of Earth observation. We are involved or are running such platforms like CREO-DIAS, one of the DIASes, or we are involved in VKO, in German code DE. And now we are involved with delivering data and some elements of the back office for the new data access system, which changed the name, I think, as of today. So Yuri will have a new name on his slides. So again, well, hello to everybody.
That's a bit of a teaser. You say system, not service. Is it a system or a service?
No, it's a service. It's a service. Basically, everything we do and everything that the system does is service.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be clear for myself, and I use the right terminology. So, I mean, congratulations to you both for your success in this proposal, and of course to the rest of your team, the other partners, as we know from Synergize, Acri, Rare, and Beta. So it's great to see us members involved in this activity. DAS is a new service building on what has been learned from the DIAS. That's my perception, at least. At the outset of the DIAS adventure, I was one of those advocating for a single DIAS, a single service, because in a competitive environment and new innovative commercial services, it didn't seem really feasible to have multiple DIASs, but the Commission didn't agree, went ahead with the DIAS, and we ended up with the 5 DIASs. But of course, now we're moving from 4 commercial down to 1. Not forgetting that Wekio still exists, so we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. And of course, the DIASs were launched at the Bovino Plus 20 event in 2018, which was seems a long time ago. So after those years of operation, 5 years of operation, a lot of lessons have been learned. Hopefully, we can hear a little bit about those, and hear more about the services that the DAS will offer. So, I mean, maybe to kick off, Yuri, you can tell us your perception of the DAS, what it will do, and how it differs from the DIAS. I give the floor to you for a time. And do you have slides or?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we have just very few slides, 4 or 5, to give you a first impression, a first look. But yeah, as we heard, EOcafe is really about exchange and discussion. We wanted to have, of course, most of the time available really to let you ask questions. And if I now see more than 200 people, that will certainly result in some questions. So let's keep it short. But let me share my screen for the few slides that we wanted to share with you. So can you see that in presentation mode?
Yeah, it's fine.
Super. Yeah, we are, of course, very happy to have been selected as a consortium with the logos that you see here. Geoff mentioned it. A lot of them are actually ERSC members and, of course, long time embedded in the community. And yeah, I think all of us, we know what is at stake. We have really respect for the responsibility that has been given to us, simply because the global community has, of course, grown over the years to tremendous size. Yeah? All around the world, Copernicus data is being used. There are some more than 600,000 registered users. That is something. And we also know, of course, the tremendous size of the data that has already been collected since 2013, and that's growing every day. And to manage that really for this whole community is a very high responsibility that we take very serious. And starting with addressing this challenge, we of course said best strategy was to build on the existing experience, like you said, Geoff, really building on the existing experiences with the data hub that T-Systems has been involved in from the very first day of the Sentinel missions. Building on the experiences of the DIASs, we have with Creo DIAS, and Mundi. We have two very close DIAS experiences in our consortium, as you will see later. And providing, of course, with that, first of all, the continuity, that we can continue, and you as an Earth community can continue with services that you're already providing to users, to customers, and to the governments around Europe, that everybody can really from the start have the same level at least of what he has been using over the last years. And at the same time, of course, to improve the services and the data offer. And I think with that, we also invested a lot of time with this team, as we believe it bundles, really a lot of the excellent experience that has been collected in Europe with working with the Copernicus data. So we were very happy to get all these champions together. Maybe not all, that would have been difficult. We wouldn't be able to write a proposal with hundreds of companies, but see this as maybe a representative of the European community, these champions, to really bring an easier discovery of the data, even as we have now already. I think you will see later from the pictures how that is, how we think that can be done. Better visualization, not only of the data, but also of the services going forward. And to provide, of course, as we know today, it's not just about the user interface, it's also about the machine-to-machine interfaces, making use of state-of-the-art tool sets and APIs to establish that. And with that, I think I can also maybe explain a bit the new title that we have agreed with the Commission and with ESA, and that's maybe the first time also we show it in public. So as the tender was still referring to the Copernicus Data Access Services, resulting from our concept, I think we all agreed with the Commission, with the ESA, that actually what we are going to do for the next months is to create a data space ecosystem. And I will explain then a bit on the slides what that means and what that implies, and what it means more than just the data access service as it was foreseen in the tender. So let's have a look on the first slide. What would this ecosystem encompass? And already here you see it will start at least with two very important components. On the left side, you see that's also with the new URL that will be published when we go live. It's the data space web portal. So the entry to the future world of the Copernicus data and services. And that portal will be a public service. That will be a service that is free to use for all the users, where users can simply also self-register, what you know from today, from the data hubs. And there will not only be access to data and download of data, there will also be services that make it easier to use the data directly in the ecosystem. And of course, this cannot be unlimited. Also, even when the European Commission has provided a very large budget for this project, as you know, the services will be with quotas so that it's a fair and transparent access for everyone, for every user, that he can use and test and try out also new services that will be going along with this public portal, like the on-demand services, which we might address in the Q&A later. And that service, that public service, will of course use the data, which Maciej will talk about in a minute. But I wanted first to ask Maciej actually to address the second pillar of the ecosystem where we will start with, and that is the commercial service, which will continue to run under the well-known, now I think, CreoDias brand, and also with the same URLs and interfaces that you will know, maybe as you are also using probably CreoDias already today. So Maciej, do you want to continue with that?
Yeah, so there is this part of commercial of viable services, and it's just like it used to be in DIASys. There is data, and close to data you have computational services, and you can have IaaS, just the infrastructure as a service services, so that you can onboard your services close to the data. And there are also serverless solutions like product generation as a service. And there are possibilities to onboard additional services and connect additional services. Basically, it's the continuation of the model of DIASys. So there is something for starters, like credits for starters, and then there is viable service. And also with data, you have free Copernicus data and other free data, but you can also have commercial data, like from commercial Earth observation satellites. So anybody who is familiar with DIASys will just have the continuation of how it used to work so far. Yuri?
Yes, thank you. So what will interest you, I think, is what happens to the data offer. So we have a slide to summarize that, Maciej.
Okay, so basically we always believe that the Earth observation data is the king, and that it should be easily available. And so the main idea is to put nearly all data online, immediately available. So with this, you have immediate access in milliseconds to any piece of data from most or from nearly all Copernicus data sets. Only some raw data are going to be in deferred storage. So basically, for nearly all applications, there is no staging, no waiting for data, and there is and the data is available in cloud native formats, via cloud native interfaces. So basically, one could think of connecting his cloud solutions directly to this data repository. Of course, this is a lot of online data. Currently, it's 35 petabytes. At the end of this stage of the project, it's going to be 85 or something like this. And of course, this allows for all the things necessary for easy and comfortable use of this data. You can have processing on the fly, you can generate dynamic data cubes. This data is just immediately at your fingers. Of course, though there is going to be one service, this service is going to be resilient, and data is going to be kept in a redundant way, actually on at the ends of a big triangle in Warsaw, Amsterdam, and close to Monachium, in Oberpfaffenhofen. It is going to be, it is already one of the biggest such online repositories in the world. But first of all, it's going to be directed in high usability, for high usability for anybody who wants to make use of this data. And so this is the main idea behind all this immediate availability of data. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. And with so many data available, it becomes, of course, extremely important that you have the best possible interface to that data to understand it, to discover it, to use it. And therefore, we were, of course, very determined and yet very happy to get Synergize on board in our team, because I think from the statistics, it's very obvious, and from the user feedback that the Sentinel Hub technology is widely accepted and extremely popular. And I think most of you will know the interface, yeah, which is also beautiful, clean. Yeah, I'm showing here the EO browser that's already online since several time. Of course, it will be looking with a slightly different corporate identity in the new ecosystem, but you can expect exactly the same menus, the same functions. So for users, it will be just the same feeling, the same interaction, and the same type of immediate availability of the data. So really going through the menus, clicking on it, and within sub-second have your false color picture like here on the screen of Belgium, of a certain region, or the NDVDI or other evaluations that might be needed, and then tune it, of course, and to also then directly use that interface, of course, to maybe produce some results in OGC format or download products that are needed for further analytics. So this is, we believe, a very important element of bringing all that data as quickly as possible to the user community, rather than the data hub interfaces that were much more oriented towards API usage. So also what the Commission has stressed, of course, in the policy, and the ESA has listed in the tender requirements, that we also have to think, of course, of many more use cases that can be possible with the data to increase even further the usage of the data into areas that are not so familiar with remote sensing or geoinformation as such. That the first entry is kept very low level and very simple. So this is the key element. Of course, there are more, but that we may touch on in the Q&A. We have, of course, also a consortium that is supporting it. Briefly wanted to present with you the companies and the roles, and also how they then establish this initial ecosystem of companies that we hope we can increase over the next months. So my company, T-Systems, is responsible for the contract phase-in and service management, the security roles that is, of course, strongly embedded in our DNA, being a large digital telco operator in the world. And some of you will know that we have also very strong cloud experience and our own cloud data centers that will be used also here for the infrastructure that we are contributing. Cloudfaro, as presented by Machi, will provide the key elements of the data space platform, the CreaDIAS platform, to make use of the data, to provide the data retrieval functions, and also new functionality like the traceability, which will become very important in the future when data will be online in different versions with different states of algorithms to be able to trace what is the originating setup of the data. And of course, also involved in user third-party management, security, and the cloud provided by the Cloudfaro company. Synergize, I mentioned it, very important for us to have this extremely well-accepted and popular browser technology to provide these streamlined services. That was also an element in the ESA tender, very clearly described that this, we believe, will bring forward the use of Copernicus data. Synergize, as an extremely well, I think, linked and networked company, will also be the main responsible for service attractiveness, to really listen to you, to the community, to also further develop the services, not only by us, but also to add third-party services and third-party data sets to the ecosystem as quickly as possible, and to provide the dashboards to monitor and provide transparency to both the users and the stakeholders of the project. And then we have Vito, also I think a very well-known champion in Europe of observation, which has already established a very innovative marketplace, which we will use to support that onboarding of third parties in the ecosystem, where both software developers as well as more established service providers can easily publish their services, can then manage those services themselves, so they keep completely independent of what others might do in the ecosystem, and support their own user communities. And for that, we will also then provide the, meanwhile, also established and well-known OpenEO framework. So that will also very much simplify to combine different offers, both the Copernicus data, the Copernicus services with other services, third-party services in the ecosystem. And Vito will also be responsible for the web portals that we will use, of course, to make users connect with the service, and the help desk that supports the requests that may come in for support. And then we're also very happy as a very important part of the service defined by ESA, and part of the requirements was then also to implement the Sentinel original processors, the CFI of ESA, into the system, so that Sentinel products can also be really regenerated on the fly, not only as part maybe of a large reprocessing campaign, that certainly is also part of it, but also really on demand, for maybe a certain interest to use those CFIs, and even have also then the latest CFIs, of course, available to reproduce then products from the originating data. And that will be done by the experts, we believe, in Europe for that, ACRI, ST for the Sentinel-2 and 3 missions, and DLR for the Sentinel-1 mission. And then there's one more component, also very important going forward. We all know it's more and more important nowadays that we can combine data, that we can combine Copernicus with other satellite data, that we can combine satellite data with non-satellite data. And I think a big step in the direction was made possible by ESA by defining a requirement to include the contributing mission data into the system, into the ecosystem right from the start. So this will be managed by REA, which is also working already with the contributing mission system since several years, and where we have all the expertise to make that available on the phase-in of the project. Yeah, summarizing, I think we have hopefully raised some interesting points for you for the Q&A. The initial service will start already end of January. And that's, of course, our first challenge, because it means basically from contract signature, we only have about 7 weeks, including the Christmas period, to make them available, including the browser functionality that you have seen and the data offer. Not yet with all the additional services that I've mentioned. That will come with a major update in April. And the full release of all the services with all the functions and performances that we want to have for the long term will be then in the end of June this year, because the plan is then also to phase out the current Data Hub services latest by 1st of July. So that also, I think, in terms of the continuity, which I mentioned in the beginning, the users and the community hopefully will have sufficient time, basically starting from end of January, where you can already register for the new service, where you can try out the first functions and APIs. It will give you basically 5 months time to then start using that new service, migrating maybe existing workloads to that, or maybe integrating the new functionalities into existing workflows or existing processing schemes that you have already available. Yeah, with that, thank you for your attention and ready for Q&A.
Thanks, Greg. Greg is doing a fantastic job in answering all the questions in the chat. So I'm not sure there are any questions left for us to pick up, but it's going to be a bit difficult for me to track them. If somebody really has a question they want to ask, they may well need to reload into the chat. But there's one or two, but some points I want to ask anyway. So, and Greg, please don't take that as anything critical. Please carry on answering, because a lot of the questions are really quite detailed and technical. In fact, I mean, at this point, do you want to comment at all? Because you're a key player in this. So,
I mean, I can just comment that it's exciting time. I think that this will change the way how people use and access the data quite significantly. We would hope that the old-fashioned download will really no longer be needed because the data will really be available in an efficient and performant way in the cloud. Obviously, whoever will want to download the data, they will be able to do so. But again, they will be able to do so not just downloading the full products in zipped format, but also downloading just parts of the products using the S3 interface, or downloading the data in a so-called streamlined fashion, processed using the OpenEO interface or Sentinel Hub interface. So I kind of feel that everything that evolved in the past couple of years is now converging in this new service, and yeah, I feel and hope that this will change the uptake of the Copernicus data and other data quite significantly.
Yeah, we seem to be finally getting to where we would like to have been maybe a few years ago, but that's again part of the process, and I think inevitable. So it's really good to see. You've got a very aggressive program. With the first rollout even at the end of this month, and another a big milestone, I think, at the end of June, when DAS takes over from the DASs. Are you going to meet this schedule? What's going to happen when? Give us a little bit more detail of the timing. Steve Coulson has asked a question. Steve, I hope you don't mind if I just pass it on also about the duration, how long this phase is due to last, how long the project is due to last.
Not at all, and apologies for the spelling mistake.
I didn't even notice, Steve.
No, perfect. I can answer that directly. I wrote it in the chat as well. It was published, of course, in the tender, but for your reference, it's a 6-year contract. So we have, I think, the stakeholder commitment. Yeah, I think it was known that it must be a long-term commitment for especially the service providers, to be able to build on the data, to value add the data, that you have this long-term planning for your businesses. And 6 years is an extremely long time in the IT. But it's even more than that. In the contract, it's also written and documented that it can be extended up to 10 years if everything runs well. And that's, of course, because of the MFF, the multi-annual financial framework, which will then be needed to finance the additional 4 years. So we will wait that decision in 2027. I hope most of you will still be there then.
Okay, and the shorter term, these short-term milestones?
Yeah, the short-term milestone, as I said, we will go live, and that's of course the first big nice event, I think, for us on the 24th of January. At the EU Space Conference, there will be an announcement on this, and basically then the URL will be made available for everyone to really register and use the initial service, which will consist of the browser and the data offer behind it. And then we will have, as I said, a major update where all services will basically come available in April that I mentioned. So the OpenEO service, the on-demand service, and of course also still in the first version with then additional functionality and a full release done in June, end of June 2023. And that means from there on, everything will be also then possible on the platform as foreseen. And yeah, basically the plan is then also to phase out directly after that on the 1st of July, the existing data hubs as we know them now. And Maciej didn't mention it. What we will also already have from April is that the data in the platform will directly come from the production system, not anymore from these intermediate systems used today for the data hubs. So we will have this direct feed of the system. So also the timeliness of the data will probably improve in terms of hours after acquisition, when you can get the data automatically available either into a process directly to process it or to have a search on it.
Is there sorry, Maciej, but is there a limit on that? Is there a specification? Is there a parameter, maybe a KPI around the time to access the data? So that would seem critical.
It is.
It is, though I cannot quote it at the moment. But yes, this is one of the KPIs. Yeah.
There is a timeliness KPI, exactly. So that we will provide the data directly after it becomes available in the production system. I also cannot say right now in minutes what it means, but that will be published, of course, on the web's portal, so that people will really understand what to expect and what will be measured also in a transparent way.
And also answering some of the other questions like labeling on, offline, and so on. There will be nearly no offline data in the system. By nearly, I mean only some raw data is going to be, let's say, deferred or offline data that you have to wait for. But all the other data is online, immediately available.
Yep, from beginning of mission.
Yeah, exactly. So full time period of the data, so which is especially important when you want to make some long-time modeling and this kind of stuff, which was quite difficult these days. Now there is a question about continuity of discovery interfaces. So there are 3 standards that are going to be used. One is OData, so it's going to be there. The second is REST, and the third is Stack. So, and in fact, if somebody uses CreoDias or one of other platforms we are involved with, there is a communication about starting of those 3 standards just these days. So it's going to be available also on CreoDias in a moment. Actually, the same discovery, yeah. And there is also a question about throughput of this and tiering. Yes, in free part, in public part, there is going to be tiering. Again, I cannot give you the numbers. They are, of course, collected in the specification of the service. And if somebody needs more, then the services like remote transfer of your data are available for additional charge. But basically, these are the same APIs, same endpoints, and so you can think about connecting your existing solutions to the new data source, which I think can be quite an interesting situation for everybody using this data.
There's been a few questions, and Greg has been again trying to answer, but I think to sort of bring it into the discussion as well, that the issue between European and non-European access. I mean, it's respecting the free and open data policy. So there's for the Sentinel data, there is completely free access to anybody. Are there restrictions in any areas of the services that will be offered? Will there be any distinctions made, or is it exactly the same, Europe, non-Europe?
Yeah, that was a very good question. No, in access to the services, there will also be no discrimination. So everybody will have a similar quota to use that free service, to discover it, to test it, to try it. Maybe it is sufficient, and if not, they can directly then, of course, move into the commercial part to continue the service on a pay-per-use basis. Exactly. They also do not have then to re-register. It is all with the same account then made available. They just then have to, of course, accept terms and conditions that might apply to such a commercial service.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. There was also a question about a wish list about products or pre-processed products. Yes, please provide us a wish list, because this is a service which is directed to users. And it's better when we are, let's say, fed with users' wishes, and we don't have to invent some of them. So yes, please. Wish list is a very sensible approach to convergence between what we can deliver and what you need.
Okay. I certainly can't keep up with all the questions that are being asked, and please come in as you have been in responding. But I alluded in my introduction to the fact that there was four commercial DSs on Wekio, that Wekio still exists. You're very much involved with Wekio and the services that are making Wekio. So in terms of integrating the data, I presume there will be some movements in that respect. And Stefan Urovic was asking a question around that. Stefan, do you want to just come in and develop that question a little bit further?
Yeah, I was just, hello everyone. It's nice to see so many people, 212 people all the way to Panama and to South America. It's really impressive. And now my question was, what about the data from the Copernicus services, which currently is on Wekio, on the DSs, and on GeoDias? Will it remain available on GeoDias? And also, what will be the philosophy with the atmosphere data store and the climate data store of those two services, which is not yet integrated in Wekio? It's kind of a strange animal in the community.
Maybe I can try to answer some of those questions. Regarding Copernicus services, yes, of course, what's on GeoDias will be on GeoDias, though we are thinking of making it more usable for users in terms of available data formats. This is one direction, because one thing is just keeping a copy, but maybe some more usable formats will be of greater use. And so this is with Copernicus services, and with climate data store. Okay, I cannot answer a question on behalf of ECMWF. Of course, climate data store is going to be available as it is. So if you ask about more integration, I think maybe this is a subject for one of next EOcafes. Jeff?
Yeah, good idea. We're happy to develop it further and have good contacts with ECMWF if we wish to bring them into the discussion. Yeah, happy to take that one up. Peter Alba has just raised his hand. Peter?
Yes, thank you. Maybe I should just quickly introduce myself. My name is Peter Albert. I'm from EUMETSAT, and I'm the Wikio service coordinator at EUMETSAT. So maybe I can answer two questions here. So first of all, I would like to clarify that currently the ADS and the CDS data is available through Wikio. So we have that connection in place. So the data should be available through Wikio. There is admittedly a certain limitation. The search interface, when you search data through Wikio, is not as advanced as it is in especially for the CDS, because finding data in the climate data store dimensions is not easy, because if you go through all the dimensions of the temporal and spatial dimensions and the products, this matrix is not totally filled, and the climate data store helps guiding the users through that. But if you know which data sets you want to access, then you can do that already through Wikio. So I'd like to clarify that. And in terms of the integration between the Copernicus data, how's it called? Data space ecosystem and Wikio, from the Wikio perspective, we are planning to federate also with the data space ecosystem in a way that because currently we are getting the Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2 data from Creo, because as it's already mentioned, Cloudflare is also implementing the current Wikio service, and in the future we also plan to have that federation with the ecosystem, so that the Sentinel data will also be transparently available in Wikio, but we're also open to federation in the other way around, so that data which is in Wikio would also be available to users of the ecosystem, such that in the end it's really a transparent and combined ecosystem for all users. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. So we will head towards an integrated approach. Obviously, the Dog Street didn't last an hour, unfortunately, so I'm making a call again. You mentioned in the presentation, Yuri, about the contributing mission data and Rhea's role in that respect. How is that going to work? Because the contributing mission data is coming from commercial sources, so there are different terms and conditions, different very different agreements. Is that restricted to Copernicus? Does it move outside Copernicus? How will that work?
Yeah, good point. That will, of course, still have to follow the same licensing and policies that are attached to that contributing mission data. So it will be subject of a request, of course, of a user in the ecosystem if he wants to use the data, if he's entitled to use the data, but then he would have direct access to it. And so it at least will simplify working with the data and combining the data with other data. But of course, the administrative work is still there. Yeah. We are looking, of course, also into improving the interface, so that the usability of going through that administrative step will be maybe somehow simplified and reduced, so that you can really get to work faster than it is maybe today. Okay, thanks. There was no mention of the in situ data. Probably that's because it's obvious, but for somebody who's not aware, perhaps you could just explain how relevant in situ data is being treated and is being made available. Will that be available through the platform in the same way as any of the Copernicus, the Sentinel data is? How will that fit in? Yes, it is. I mean, we all know how essential it is, of course, for different communities in a different way. Each of them have their own type of in situ data that they might use in combination. And that will be our main job after we finish the first milestones successfully, to then start increasing the ecosystem also with in situ data. And there we also look towards the user community, of course, to provide us with feedback. And I see Grega there as our ambassador, yeah, as our say interface to the user community to have this very quick turnaround of priorities. Where do we see the biggest priorities going forward? So that we will be able to either federate with existing data sets, because the technology is there to do it, just like we do with the contributing missions or the other data, like mentioned by Peter, yeah, on Wikio. That's also a very good approach. And then in cases where it's not possible to just copy and put the data in our catalogs, because usually we're not talking about a lot of data, but they can be essential, of course, for certain applications. And that's what we really want to do, that people can process a full workflow, including the reference data or other big data sources that they may need to finish it really directly into the ecosystem and get the result. And there are also KPIs on this. That's maybe interesting to know. So also the stakeholders are really behind this. Yeah, the stakeholders really have defined a number of KPIs to support this, to foster this, and also we will use that, of course, to ask support from the stakeholders, yeah, where it might be also a political or an administrative hurdle to get such data sets online in the ecosystem, because it's not always simply a question and answer of a commercial relationship. Sometimes data sets are managed by government entities, and then of course you also need to have the stakeholder support to make that possible. And I think there we are really moving in one direction.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I saw at least 2 representatives from EEA on the call, so that's good. I've lost my thread now. Yeah, we've talked in the margins a little bit about data spaces and what that means and what the trend in Europe is, and we're hoping to have an EOcafe around that topic fairly shortly. This is a fairly large data space as I see. My understanding of this is rather limited, but is that a correct interpretation in this sort of wider definition of data spaces, and how will this data space fit with other data spaces?
Yes, absolutely. It's not so much the size that defines if a service like this is a data space, yes or no. It's really about which policies you follow. And you might know, or some of you might know, that also the Commission is doing a lot of good work in this respect and has defined a European data strategy to govern that process, including legislation that is brought on the way. So first of all, the Data Governance Act, and then later we will have the Data Act. And we have really committed to follow with Copernicus, and the stakeholders are 100% supporting that, to establish this data service as a data space, and follow also then these new legislations and make it possible for members to join in a transparent and fair way. So there will be also a policy on membership of the ecosystem. So it will not be a service of just a few companies. It will be really growing into this type of European data strategy type of services, where it's also important that users at the end own the data, and not just us, the central platform. Yeah? So, or some cloud in that platform. And for that, we will see also then, of course, new identity management systems being made available, so that people can really embed the access to data with a self-sovereignty, yeah? So that the one that provides the data defines basically what happens to that data and for whom it is made available, and not a central service that manages it on behalf of everybody else.
Okay,
that's the key element of that data space philosophy that we follow.
Ambitious.
Yes, it will take time. It will take time, but it's good to have this plan right from the beginning, so that every step we make it in the right direction.
Definitely. again, the questions are flying thick and fast, and Gregor is doing a heck of a job. If anyone has we've got a couple of minutes left. If anyone has a burning question that they want to put, just raise your hand. But one of the things that we discussed beforehand was dealing with the questions, and the team are going to take the questions that are asked here and use that as part of the preparation of an FAQ that will be available in due course. So this was so your questions will get even a more fuller answer as part of an FAQ linked to the DAS later. If there are no further questions, I'm going to close off there. Please, as usual, if anyone wants to stick around and just ask informal questions without recording, then that's possible. So you can stay on the line. Thank you very much to Yuri and Maciej for coming and sharing with us the vision of DAS and where it's going. And I wish you all the success. It sounds really, really exciting and really, as I said, heading very much in the direction we wanted to be even a few years ago. So that's really encouraging. Just before we finish, we have launched our latest industry survey. We really do need answers from the community, from companies working with EO data and EO services. So please respond to it. It's absolutely critical for getting the support from the institutions, from ESA, from the Commission, from the other players, to show how the industry, how the commercial side is developing. So please respond to the survey if you had an invitation. If you haven't, you've got a QR code there. Just get in contact with us if there's any issues. But we really want your answers, the information. And even if you don't give all the answers to all questions, even partial information is very useful. Couple of other publicities, which I'm expecting the screen to change. There's a forum at the end of the month, the FIRE forum, which will be again about the meeting of the service providers, the users, understanding the strategy to move forward, what needs to be done to improve the ecosystem. So that's a date to register. 3 days of really quite intense discussions with the user community. And then finally, in 2 weeks' time, our next EOcafe will be with Tero Varaste from ISI and Fernando Leda from Satellogic. And we want to explore about the difficulties of creating a new business in Europe. So of either European companies or outside companies trying to set up a new business in Europe, what are the challenges, how they've been overcome? So we thought to talk with two experienced players in this respect and to try and learn from their experiences. So that's the end of the publicity. And before closing completely, Yuri, Maciej, again, thank you, but please have a last word to both of you.
Yeah, thank you. First, of course, to you, Geoff, for organizing this and with such an attendance, unbelievable. For me, it's the best way to start something like this, to be in touch with so many people and listen also to your questions to see what direction we should be going. And yeah, happy to keep this dialogue. So please challenge us. We want to get the best out of for everyone.
Well, you've challenged us to do something with ECMWF and to get you back in some time. So
yes,
good, Maciej.
Okay, I can only say that we are all very excited being around this service. I would like to thank Grega for his great job on the chat, and I'm really amazed by the quickness of his answers. And I hope and believe that we are going to be as quick on with answers and with delivery of services related to data delivery. That's it.
We all hope that, and there'll be many here holding you to that, I think. Great, thank you. Okay, so thanks everyone. Great to see you here in such numbers. Anyone who wishes to hang around and chat. Bente had a hand up just now. I don't know if she wants to come in, but from now on we stop the recording.